Darryl, I have a question for you along similar lines. Is there a process of waking up the language in a translation? I remarked earlier on how different the work read between your translations of Wumingi and Xueyue, and I was wondering, how do you channel the energy of the original text, and do you find that you have to edit out your own tendencies and narrative tics in the translation process?
Yeah, use actually too much.
Actually, the word.
In Chinese, people are always saying 成功的怎么样, successfully doing something or other. When if you translate successfully every time, it sounds kind of odd. Like he successfully went to the bathroom, he successfully went over the wall. Of course, you'd want to use successfully to emphasize.
Or took the monkey to the zoo. I mean, those are both achievements.
Yeah, but in general, a translator, I guess, is aiming at using expressions and words at the same rate that they're used in the language you're translating into. Especially boring words like actually, right? Or successfully. You don't want to use them too much because they're not really keywords. Well, obviously the style is going to be different because it's a different writer. And I usually do many different drafts when I'm translating. The first draft will usually be the most literal, the closest to the original. And I just keep on revising until it doesn't seem as terrible as the first draft. Often seems quite awful when you look at it for the first time. I guess any kind of inspiration is like something wakes up in your mind, right? Right. You're sitting in the bath, you're sitting on the toilet, you're walking through the park, and suddenly you realize that's how to say this. That's how a native speaker would say this. So somebody's getting off the bus in a novel and they pay the fee. Pay the fee doesn't sound right, but you can't think about how people actually say it. And then something wakes up in your mind and you pay the fare. Yes. But as a translator, it's often very hard to think of the right way to say something.
Thank you. I wanted to ask Wu Laoshi a bit about the vibrant nature that the vibrant role that nature plays in your narratives. It's so influential and it's so important and it's woven throughout all your texts. Can you speak about what has inspired you or why it keeps coming up? Yeah.
自然对我的启发。
对。
事实上，我是一个完全都市的小孩，所以我在在成长的过程中，距离自然很远。
Right, so he grew up in the cities, a city boy. He lived far away from nature when he was a kid and a teenager.
但是我在大学毕业的时候去打了一个工，这个工是昆虫展的打扫的人员。
But he got a job. He had a job in high school or university. Any college that changed the direction of his life. He was a volunteer, or was it an actual job? 领薪水吗？
领薪水。
Yeah, he got this part-time job at an insect exhibition or insect at the zoo.
No. 这个
It was an exhibition for insects, and he got the job.
不是在动物园。
Not in the zoo. That's not important.
在商业区。因为在商业区呢，它展出了很多标本，然后有一个地方有网室，里面放了很多蝴蝶。每天我们晚上的工作就是清除死掉的蝴蝶。
Okay, so there were a lot of butterflies and butterfly specimens, and a lot of them would die during the day, and so his job was to collect the corpses of these butterflies every evening.
这个事情很冲击我的感情，因为每天早上有非常多的小朋友进来，他们要跟蝴蝶合照，很欢乐。我们有时候帮他们拍照，可是我们的工作晚上就是强迫喂食蝴蝶，跟清扫这个死去的蝴蝶。
Right, so every day kids would come to see the butterflies, and they'd want to get their picture taken with the butterflies, and one of his jobs was to take pictures of these kids with the butterflies, but he found it kind of a sad thing to do every evening now, to clean up all the butterfly corpses when everyone was gone.
各位可能不相信我们喂蝴蝶吃什么东西啊？我们喂蝴蝶吸养乐多。加拿大有
Yeah, it's kind of yogurt. It's like a sweet yogurt. It's a yogurt drink, so yogurt plus water, very, very sweet. So this is what they were feeding to the butterflies.
这件事情在我内心里面造成冲突。另外一件事情就是我们没有解说的资格，因为我只是一个打扫的工读生，可是有另外一批专业的解说员，他们可能对昆虫有专业的了解，会替游客做解说。
Right. So his job was not to be a guide. He wasn't supposed to tell people about the butterflies, but there were professional guides there who knew a lot about insects and about butterflies, and so you had the opportunity to listen to them.
Yeah. 但是各位也可以知道，因为我是一个商人的小孩，所以各位也可以知道我非常会骗人，会说故事。所以我很快的听了他们的解说之后，我也会说了。
Okay. So his dad was in business. His family were business people, and so he was their kid. And so to be successful in business, you got to be able to stretch the truth. And so this is, I guess, part of his talent as a writer. And so after a couple of days listening to these guides do their spiel about the insects and the butterflies, he kind of learned how to do it himself.
我很快的记会了这些蝴蝶的名字我也知道了他们的习性，虽然我并不认识他们我就跟我的老板说，我也可以当解说员因为解说员的薪水是扫地的薪水的3倍。
Okay. So he told his boss at the time that he knew the names of all the butterflies and he knew their different characteristics and their habits, and he could do the explanation just as well as any of the guides that he'd employed. Give him a chance to do this other job as well, because he would make 3 times as much money.
我看起来像是一个很有知识的人去跟游客讲这些其实我并没有接触的自然界。一方面自己越讲越空虚，二方面有资深的解说员终于忍不住告诉我，他告诉我说你这样子不可以，因为事实上你根本没有在野外认识过这些动物。
Right. So
就是说我也忘记我讲什么。教练，就是说我每天在那边解说，就越讲越心虚。因为这些并不是我认识的动物，并不真的是，我只是把它背起来而已。另外一方面，有资深的解说员也指出我这样是不对的，因为我并不像他们一样是在野外的研究者。
Right. So did you do this job? Did you
Yeah,
actually?
sure.
Right. So he did the job for a couple of days. He introduced the butterflies and the insects to the people that came to see them. But he didn't have confidence in himself, and in fact, the other guides would come to him and say, we listen to you, and I mean, it's all factually right, but you can tell that you don't know what you're talking about. You don't really know these butterflies and these insects based on your own personal experience. You don't have experience of going into the wild.
我觉得非常的羞愧从此以后，我每天上班之前，我就骑着我的机车去阳明山，认识蝴蝶，带了一本蝴蝶图鉴。终于我理解到了，真的接触自然界跟书本里面接触自然界是完全不同的2回事。
Right, so he felt kind of vaguely ashamed of himself, and so from that day forward, he would ride his bicycle up Yangming Mountains, this big mountain in the north of Taipei, with a field guide. And the experience taught him that learning about nature in a book or by listening to somebody else's explanation of nature is very different from going out into nature and observing it yourself.
我迷上了野外的活动，然后我开始写一些文章。那我想到有一个美国的自然作家 Aldo Leopold，他曾经讲过，就是说，如果你拿一颗高尔夫球到一个小孩子的面前，他不会惊讶，他会玩这颗球。可是你带着一头活生生的鹿到他面前的时候，他会颤抖。鹿 ，OK。
Right. So he got.
我觉得很丢脸，所以开始。
Yeah. So again, Shane was motivated to go out into nature. He got very fond of going out into into nature and observing it. And started reading about nature. Came across Aldo Leopold, a very famous nature writer from the U.S. And in one of his essays, Aldo Leopold says that, I mean, if you take a golf ball and show it to a little kid, they won't think anything of it. It's not surprising at all. But if you brought a chimpanzee or a deer in front of a little kid is going to start to shiver.
这件事情，这个经历完全的改变了我。日后在我的作品里面，自然界变成一个不可能剥离的元素。我也认为，自然界对人的心灵造成了很深的影响，在每一代的人类文化里面。
So this changed the direction of his life, had a huge impact on his life and who he is today, and it gave him a conviction that actually our relationship with nature has an effect on all of us, whether we know it or not.
在描写二次大战的战争的小说里面，描写的都是人的痛苦啊。但是在我的《单身世界记》里面，《Stolen Bicycle》这本小说里面，我写了一头大象的痛苦。
Usually, when you read about war, whether it's history or fictionalization of war, you read about people suffering. War from people's perspective, but one of the things he set out to do in Stolen Bicycle is write about the war from the perspective of an animal and write about an animal suffering in wartime, particularly an elephant.
在这个缅甸的战场里面，中国军俘虏了13头日军的大象。后来在战胜了之后呢，他们把这13头大象带回中国，沿路不断的死亡。到了台湾的时候，只剩下3头大象。
So one of the inspirations for the novel was an incident where the Chinese forces fighting the Japanese in Burma captured 13 war elephants that the Japanese had been using in the war effort. 13 elephants. After the victory, after the Japanese surrendered, the Chinese took these elephants not back to China, but they took them across the mountains through Yunnan to China. And along the way, the elephants kept on dying off from disease or lack of food. And by the time they got to Taiwan, there were only 3 elephants of the 13 left alive.
其中第一头很快就死掉了，第二头死掉的时候，他们切掉了他的4条腿，做成了大象椅子。送给当时带他来台湾的孙立人将军。
The first of the 3 elephants that made it to Taiwan died soon after arriving in Taiwan, and the second died not long thereafter. And so with the second elephant, what they did with it is saw off its feet to turn into stools, elephant foot stools, and they ended up in the home of General Sun Liren, who was the leader of the unit that had captured these 13 elephants in the first place.
剩下的这头大象到了台北进去动物园，变成了全世界最长寿的人工豢养的大象，也变成所有台北人的记忆。
Right. So there was 1 elephant left, and it ended up in the zoo. And it eventually was the longest lived elephant in captivity in the entire world, and I think to this day it still is. It's now passed on. But for people of a certain age, it's part of their childhood memories. Everyone remembers going to the zoo to see this elephant.
这头大象在动物园里面有非常长的时间在狂暴期，也就是它会变得非常的暴力啊，所以动物园就只好把它的腿锁起来。所以林旺这头大象有很长的时间在动物园，它能够移动的空间只有几公尺而已。
So the elephant was called Ling Wang, and it often had violent episodes, and so for its own safety, the zookeepers had to kind of tie it up and restrain it, and so often it wasn't able to move more than a couple of meters.
很多专家认为，林旺这个不寻常的现象，可能跟他的内分泌有关，就他始终处于狂暴期。但在小说里面，我的解释是林旺忘不了那场战争。
Right. So, according to experts, one explanation for Li Wang's violent episodes was his hormones were out of whack. But in the novel, he had another explanation, which was trauma, wartime trauma. The elephant, Li Wang, was unable to forget its suffering, traumatic experiences during the war.
我想要在我的小说里面把人跟自然的运行同时写进去，但是我没有办法去写一个大象的观点，所以我在小说里面安排了其中一个主角坐上了那个象脚椅，于是大象的记忆就来到他的梦境里。
Right. Right. So, I don't know, I never talked to an elephant. Who knows what's an elephant's thinking? As a novelist, he's got the same problem. How can you access the consciousness of an elephant? So, one way he did that in the novel is by having a character in the novel sit on one of these elephant's footstools. And as soon as he did that, the memories of the elephant, the experience of the elephant, came into his thoughts and into his dreams.
我认为不管是人类的文化、人类的故事、人类的历史，如果失去把自然界从这个舞台抽去的话，那人类就变成这个星球里面最孤独的生物。
Right. So, kind of words to sum up. If we sever our relationship with nature or remove nature from our daily lives, to him this would be for us as human beings to become the loneliest animal in the world.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Kind of related to the stool and the man sitting up and getting the memories of the elephant. Some of the truly captivating moments in Man with the Compound Eyes, your first translated book, and Stolen Bicycle, involve supernatural appearances or occurrences. There are souls of soldiers who appear as schools of fish, or a small bird in Stolen Bicycle, that is the soul of a pilot, I think. And there's a man with the compound eyes who walks in the mountain. It seems to be like a nature spirit or a god. Ulash, I was wondering if you could share some thoughts on the role of magical realism or spirituality in your works.
常常会有台湾的评论者谈论我的小说的时候提到魔幻写实这个小说类型。
A lot of literary critics like to interpret his writings in terms of magic realism.
但事实上，我写的不是魔幻写实小说，而是我活在魔幻的现实里。
He doesn't think he's writing magical realism. He thinks he's living in a kind of reality that is full of magic.
我来到Vancouver 之前呢，我的母亲带我去基隆那边。这个基隆叫开张圣王，我不知道怎么翻译的。总而言之是基隆，你知道基隆吗？你知道的，就是神的代理人。
Oh, okay. 就是灵媒吗？
但我们叫基隆，当地台语。
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so before he came here to Vancouver, his mother took him to the temple to see this kind of spirit medium.
各位，我是大学教授。我怎么可能相信是这样的事情呢？
Right, so he's a university professor. He had a modern education. It's just like with the intercession of the goddess of the sea. He's not going to be able to believe that this is true the way his mother can.
但是我母亲我如果不去，我如果没有带我的衣服去给基隆这盖这个很难翻，我想办法别的方式的。我如果没有喝这个符水。这几天我离开台湾的这几天，我母亲会过得非常不安。
Right, but if he doesn't go with his mother to this temple, and he doesn't drink the potion, doesn't do this, whether he believes it or not, his mother isn't going to be able to rest easy while her son is away in Vancouver. So he had to go. So he went with his mother.
我对我母亲的爱就表现在我相信她相信的这个世界。
The way he expresses his love for his mother is by believing in the things that she believes in.
这个世界对他而言是非常的重要的，因为如果没有这些神明的保佑的话，他早就在二次大战死掉了。
Right. To his mother, these spiritual presences, magical beings are an important part of her reality, and to her, she believes that without their intercession, without their protection, she never would have survived the Second World War.
所以我自己在写小说的过程中，始终把自己当作半个小说家，半个鸡桶。
So when he's writing, his identity as a writer, he's half a writer and half a spirit medium who can tell people who go to the temple what the spirits are thinking.
我非常钟爱的加拿大作家 Margaret Atwood，他讲过，就是说写作有4个主要的任务，其中有一个我非常印象深刻，那就是到死亡的世界里面去，把珍贵死去的人的珍贵东西带回来。
So he really likes Margaret Atwood. Margaret Atwood said there's 4 important characters in any kind of novel, or 4 character types, and one that made a really big impression on him was the person that goes into the afterlife, the world of the dead, and collects the precious things there and brings them back to the world of the living.
当我看到Margaret Atwood 这么说的时候，我相信他讲的就是像我这样的鸡桶。
Right. So it sounds to him like Margaret Atwood sees herself as a novelist, as a kind of spirit medium.
所以当我顺从这样的思考的方式在写小说的时候，而不是用一个大学教授的角色在写小说的时候，我就活在这个魔幻的世界里面。它并不是一种写作的方式，它就是我本人生活的方式。
也是我的幸福。
So when he conceives of writing in this way, or approaches writing in this way, he's no longer just a university professor. He's somebody who lives in this world of magic, this world of mystery and wonder.
Thank you.
Thank you. Time is going so quickly, and we have so many things to speak about. But I'm just going to ask one more question, and then we'll go to the reading.
Okay.
So that we can get to your questions, and I'm sure there's so many. Wu Laoshi and Darryl, you both are deeply passionate about the representation of indigenous languages and characters in Taiwanese writing and film. Can you tell us about your experiences with these communities and the role you feel that they play in Taiwanese arts?
我接触了台湾的原住民一段时间之后，我感到非常的亲切，原住民也都很喜欢我，原因是他们都认为我是原住民。
He's made a lot of indigenous friends, and he likes them a lot, finds them very charismatic. They like him a lot, and they often think that he is himself indigenous.
各位看我，外国人看我不可能还是觉得我是一个东方人，长得也很像是好像是中国人的样子。但事实上，如果同样是东方人，就会知道我的眼睛比较大，我的轮廓比较深，很像台湾的高山民族。
Right, so maybe to you, he just looks like a typical Taiwanese person, typical Chinese person. But to people in Taiwan, his eyes are kind of bigger than normal, and his, I guess, deeper than normal. So he looks a bit indigenous to people in Taiwan, like he's from the Central Mountains.
但是每次我的原住民朋友问我有没有原住民血统的时候，我就说不出来，因为看起来似乎从我家庭的系谱里面是没有的。
He does not know how to reply when people ask him this kind of question because in his family tree there's no trace of indigenous ancestry.
但是我的原住民朋友其中一位这个原住民的艺术家，有一次跟我讲说，跟我辩论这件事情。他说我不是看你的血缘系谱，他说我看到你的灵魂就是原住民。
So one of his friends, Walis Nogama.
瓦利是有感。
Walis,
没关系，不重要。
Ukan, I don't know him. Anyways, this artist, one of his indigenous friends, says, you know, I'm sure that you do have some indigenous background that's not from looking at your family tree or your ancestry. 他
就是说他看到。
He saw your spirit or your soul? He saw your soul. Your soul. He saw it in your soul.
这件事情不重要啊，重要的是他们的文化方式、语言，真的非常深的影响了我的灵魂。
Right. So I mean, what he knows, what he is sure of, is that indigenous culture, indigenous language has had a huge impact on him as a person, on him spiritually, on his soul.
有一次我参加阿美族的一个小的祭典，阿美族是一个母系社会，所以他们的巫师就是都是巫婆。
Well, one time he went to an Amis. Amis is one of the indigenous groups in Taiwan, and he went to one of their festivals, and it's a matrilineal society, and the shamans in Amis culture are women, so they're shamanesses.
他们在举办的这个祭典叫驱虫祭，就是把虫赶离开，或者就是说请虫离开的一个祭典。
And it's agricultural festival. When they're gonna plant the New Year's crop, they have to ask the insects and the bugs who might come and eat the crop to please go away, at least temporarily. Will you please free up the land so we can plant our crops, so it'll grow and we can feed ourselves. Please just leave for the time being.
当这个阿美族的巫婆在念咒语的时候，我的阿美族朋友翻译给我听，我觉得像是一首诗一样。这些巫婆对这些昆虫讲说亲爱的各种虫啊，就是此刻我们要播种了。等这些稻子长出来的时候，这些作物长出来的时候，可以请你们稍微离开一下。这世界很大。有别的地方你们可以觅食等到这个稻子我们收成之后，我们很乐意与你们分享剩下来的稻谷。类似这样子。
Okay, so she was reading this liturgy or these spells in Amis, and his Amis friend translated them into Mandarin for him, and to him it sounded like a poem. I can't translate it into a poem in English, but the basic idea was, please, we want to feed ourselves, we want to plant our crop, will you please go somewhere else for the time being. It's a big world out there, even Taiwan's a big island, there's got to be lots of places for you to go the next couple of months, but rest assured you can come back when we do the harvest, and we're looking forward to sharing part of it with you.
我听到这样的咒语的时候，真的感动到掉眼泪就是这个似乎是生长在他们基因里面的，跟自然界的生物相处的一种方式。
Right, so he found this so moving, he almost started crying, and part of what he found so moving is how intimately related Amis people's lives are with the natural world. Like they're always conscious of beings, the other creatures in the natural world, and they're always communicating with them.
现在台湾官方承认的原住民族超过20族，他们有各自不同的文化。
Now, according to various agencies in Taiwan, there are a lot of indigenous groups that are recognized by the government. I think the official figure is 16个，现在16个，
好像有今年20个。
Maybe we're up to 20 by now, or even more than 20. So 20 and a few officially recognized indigenous groups in Taiwan. And they're recognized, for their distinctive cultures and distinctive languages.
他们的说话方式，他们的文化传统跟汉族是完全不一样的。比如说我的布农族朋友，我问他说到底要多久的时间？他说大概是一头公牛尿尿的时间。Okay.
And they have very different culture, very different language from Chinese and Taiwanese in Taiwan. For example, he asked a friend of his who's Bunun. Bunun, like Amis, is an indigenous group in Taiwan. How long? When are we going to get there? How long is it to get to this destination? And the reply was, it's the time it takes for a bull to finish peeing.
当我这个是书里面写的，我要问下半部说你有几个小孩，他会说有3条，小小的，因为他用了鱼的单位。
Right, well this is untranslatable, so. Another group, another indigenous people that lives on Orchid Island. It's this island off the southeast coast of Taiwan. Bottled tobacco is another name of it, and the people who live there are called Dao or Yami. And one of his close friends, an author from this island, is called Shaman Lampuan. And according to him, people ask him, "How many kids do you have?" And his answer is, "I got 3." But the way he answers it's like he's saying he has 3 fish. 三条鱼. There's this thing in Chinese called a measure word. So from the measure word, you can guess what you're talking about. So with people, there's a certain measure word, and with fish, there's this other measure word. So they use the measure word for fish in the language that they speak on Orchid Island.
当我问我的阿美族朋友说这条溪叫什么名字，他告诉我说它叫嘎啷啷。我说什么叫做嘎啷啷？他说中文的意思大概就是像野火一样沸腾的溪。
一样。
野火。
Yeah, okay. Right, so he asked his Amis friend, what's the name of this river? And his Amis friend said, Galangla. And so he said, well, what does Galangla mean? And the answer was, it's like a wildfire. It's like a wildfire burning, and the flames leaping up and spreading.
这都是汉人文化里面没有的语汇更不用提原住民有汉人文化里没有的幽默感。
Right. So this is the kind of expression that you don't find in Chinese. It's not a Chinese expression. It's very strange, very foreign sounding to Chinese speakers. And as is the indigenous sense of humor.
汉人可能是非常没有幽默感的。
Chinese people, I guess, are not very funny people. They're not very humorous nation.
但是我的原住民朋友，无论有的时候在很辛苦的状况之下，他们都始终保持着他们的幽默感。
Right, indigenous friends are humorous people, and no matter how hard things are and how hard the going gets, they manage to keep a sense of humor about whatever's happening.
台湾的音乐、运动、台湾的文学，如果把原住民文化移开的时候，我们就一无所有。
Right. So Taiwan's got some like famous people, famous singers, famous athletes, and famous writers, and many things. And if you took away the athletes, the indigenous athletes, if you took away the indigenous singers, and in many other fields of endeavor, you basically wouldn't have anybody left.
Thank you.
And how about Darryl? Do you have a response to the role?
Right. Yeah. Spent the past half dozen years trying to learn a language called Saedic. It's this other indigenous group, and it's kind of hard. I sometimes wonder why. What's motivated me to become so focused on Saedic or so obsessed with it, and I think that it's the story that my friend told me about when he was young. One of his hobbies when he was young was going in